episode 214 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture. I'm your host, Brian Barnett.
I'm Chris Shriver.
And I'm Adam Bankhurst.
Hey!
Surprise!
We finally got to get Adam on the show. Yay!
So excited.
And it's a very special episode indeed, because this episode of The Platformers, I said this is a show about games and nerd culture. Well, this is the second half of that. This is our Spider-Man No Way Home Spoilercast. Now, if you have not seen the movie yet, you don't need to dip out quite yet, because at the beginning of this show, what we're going to go into in just a moment is our spoiler-free, just kind of impressions, thoughts, and things like this. But before we do that, I just want to thank Adam for joining us for this episode. We've been talking about having him on the show for so long.
Way too long.
For so long. Way too long. It may have been like well over a year, and we just haven't done it.
I know, time goes way too fast. It's kind of crazy.
It's true.
Especially the COVID times.
Yeah, really.
And we both had kids, yeah. But Adam, why don't you introduce yourself? I'm sure lots of our audience are already familiar with you, but where might they know you from?
So yeah, my name's Adam Bankhurst, and a lot of you may know me from IGN, where I've been writing news and features and all kinds of stuff for about 3 years now. So that's kind of the main place. I also host a podcast called The Gamer's Advocate that I've been doing for a long time, that I'll have to have both of you guys on soon too. We would love to have some future crossovers and let all that stuff happen. But yeah, I've been a writer in the games industry for a while now, and I've met some incredible people like you too, and it's just so awesome to be able to kind of come on and talk and hang out, because I feel like that's the one problem sometimes, especially in this day and age, where I feel like so much of our lives is online and in Slack and stuff. So it's nice to be able to see some faces and hang out and have fun, especially since E3's canceled and everything's canceled and we'll never see each other again. Just kidding. It'll happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. Mostly IGN is where you'll find me.
Yeah. So, Spider-Man No Way Home. There is a lot to talk about. And when we're going to have our spoiler-filled section of this episode is going to be significantly longer, I think, because there is just so much to talk about.
Just due to the nature of
when it gets down to the specific plot points and a lot of things like that. But I think that there is still a significant amount that we can say about it without getting into spoilers. And let's just start with how we feel about it overall, and whether we would recommend people go see it if they have not been able to so far. So let's start with our guest. Adam, what did you think about the movie?
I absolutely fell in love with it. I mean, I was going in with a lot of high expectations, and obviously there was so much going into this. It felt like an event, like the first one kind of since even Avengers Endgame or one of these big ones. It was like such a big tentpole movie for not just the MCU, but like everything. And I just, I went in and, man, I was just smiling, and I feel like, I went on opening night, so the crowd was pretty packed. A lot of masks, so everyone was being pretty responsible, which I was happy about. But
nice.
A lot of cheering, a lot of fun, and just, I haven't gone to see it again, but I'm very sad about that, because it's probably one of my favorite MCU movies, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, what about you?
Same experience. We were there opening night, and it was the first time since probably Endgame that we really had like I guess Far From Home was probably the last one that we went opening night. And, it was crazy being in a theater again with like that much energy from the audience. Yeah. I always say, there's, during COVID and everything, I would always say there was always something about seeing a movie in a theater with a live audience and, like, just being a part of that whole experience, like, especially the first weekend that a movie comes out. And it, until you get back into it, you forget how much it adds to the experience.
It felt like coming home, honestly.
Yeah, it really was. Like I didn't realize how much
it felt like homecoming.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. I mean, it's a phenomenal movie. I mean, you could definitely, I think the argument could be made that this is the best of the trilogy for the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Possibly the best live action one. I don't know if it's better than Into the Spider-Verse, but It like you can make that argument. Like it's that good of a movie. I think. It's a movie that like when it ended and we may get into it later. There were very few things like Devin and I from the Last of Us podcast. We're going back and forth on the way out, like trying to poke holes in it because that's usually what we do, and that's how we like determine whether or not it was a good, MCU movie. And I mean, it's airtight, like at least from what we were able to discertain in that 5-minute walk to the car. But we both absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty easily the best of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's close. I think this one is significantly better. And one of the interesting things is, like you were saying about... Well, hold on. I'm gonna talk through something real quick. So, Homecoming was the first, and that doesn't really have huge ramifications for kind of anyone except Spider-Man himself. And even then, it's not enormous. It just sets things up for Infinity War and the fact that he's going to have the Iron Spider suit and he's going to be, closely associated with Tony Stark and things like this. The second movie, the end of the second movie, really the only thing that happens is the exposure of his secret identity, which of course is the...
I mean, it's a huge deal.
is a huge deal, but only really for him, particularly when Tony Stark's Iron Man, like everybody knows who he is. Doctor Strange, everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows who Bruce Banner is. Like, there are very few heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for whom their secret identity is actually for whom they actually have a secret identity.
Yeah.
That's not as big of a thing in the MCU. And so I thought they were going to... The interesting thing is that they're covering the revelation of his identity in this movie when in the comics, that is the thing that kicks off Civil War.
Right.
Is Tony getting Peter Parker to unmask himself and then terrible things happen to his family. And he's originally with Tony Stark and then he switches to be on Cap's side. When Civil War was actually about a totally different thing. But yeah, I think it's interesting that like this movie, and a lot of people have compared this to the big event Avengers movies like Infinity War and Endgame and stuff like that, in that they have huge ramifications for the rest of the MCU. This is the only Spider-Man movie that really does that. But it also is even more personal for Spider-Man, what happens in this movie, than the other two Spider-Man movies. So it's a weird thing where I think it nails the scale of the huge event MCU movies better than the previous Spider-Man movies do. And I think it also nails the personal, really grounded stuff more than the other Spider-Man movies do. I feel like it's just better across the board.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that is in part to the fumbling that Sony had with Spider-Man, like as a character and like as a franchise. Because like when Homecoming came out, that was right after they were going to do the Sinister Six. With the Andrew Garfield thing. And then,
which I would have loved to see.
Yeah, and I think that was when...
As like the only person who loves Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man.
No, Jess is a huge fan.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. She will not shut up about him. But the... like...
Also, let's be real. He's the best looking Spider-Man. Come on.
He's a good looking man.
He is. Let's be real.
But no, I think this movie does a lot of heavy lifting. Rather, it executes a lot of the heavy lifting that I think the first two try to do, where they it's stuck between two worlds of like, is this a Sony movie? Is this a Marvel movie? And
yes, kind of.
Yeah, and like when this wraps up, it's kind of like it is still kind of like a we'll see moment.
Yeah.
But it still felt...
Which, man, I can't wait to talk about that later.
Yeah, it still felt very finite,
Yeah.
And I kind of find it interesting, and I was kind of just having this thought that kind of just popped in my head right now, but because you were talking about kind of the scope and scale of all these other movies, and I think what was really cool is how, Homecoming is really about, Peter coming to grips that, yeah, he wants to be an Avenger and be with Iron Man, but at the end of the day, he also just kind of wants to be a kid and be his friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then after Far From Home, he doesn't really have that choice anymore. And I think it's just kind of dealing with the ramifications of it. So it's like, it's a big thing for him and the MCU and everything kind of expanding. And it's like no turning back kind of. It's a very interesting kind of place we find him in, which I think was kind of in an interesting way set up, kind of saying what Peter originally wanted, but now he can't really have anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to say something, and this will take maybe 2 minutes or whatever. I'm going to say something that's in one of the trailers. So if you didn't watch anything like me, and you don't want to hear anything about it like I didn't, then skip ahead like 2 minutes. But we know some of the villains that are in this movie from watching the trailers, and the inclusion of these elements from previous Spider-Man movies ends up being a make good on it, bringing in the best elements of those movies and then being a make good for the things that didn't really work at the time. At the same time as doing Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man a lot more justice and making him way more of an interesting character by the end of the movie, which is something like one of the things that we've talked about when we've talked about the MCU series, like with Hawkeye and WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki, is that a lot of these, by the end of them, I was like, man, I didn't really care about this character, and now I really do. And that's been one of the strengths of those series. And I think that they actually managed to do that with Spider-Man, which is a crazy thing for me to say as somebody for whom Spider-Man is in my top 2 favorite superheroes. It's Superman and Spider-Man. Those are my top 2. And as somebody who's loved Spider-Man but hasn't really been taken with Tom Holland's rendition of Spider-Man, I think that there are things that he does really well. We've talked about this before on the show, but I feel like Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland both like nail the physicality of being Spider-Man. And I think that Tobey Maguire really nails being Peter Parker. And I think that one of the things that Chris said, I think it was in the past couple of weeks, I think, was that Tom Holland is pretty good at both, but doesn't really nail either one, which I thought was a great way of describing it. And I feel like in this, he's still about the same at both, but I think the bar is just raised a bit on both. I think he's closer to what I love about Spider-Man. And I think that with how this movie ends, I think we are way more likely to see that in the future. Should we get more, which I think it's been reported that there are going to be more.
I think 3 more, they said. They're signing on for at least 3 more projects, I think it was.
The 6th highest grossing movie globally, right?
8th
They're definitely,
now, it is,
or 8th now, that was it. Yeah. They're definitely not going to not make more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, it's so funny to think like that this almost never happened, and the two, Sony and Marvel, just almost, they did split up for a second, and it was like, man, what are you guys leaving on the table? What are you thinking, guys?
Come on.
I'm not the only Spider-Man lover out there. Like, he is one of the most, I think Pikachu is like the number 1 most recognizable character in the world or something like that. Pokemon is like the number 1 Q rating for a franchise or something like highest name recognition. But Spider-Man is really up there.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is really up there. So, I mean, it's he's easily the biggest star that Marvel has, or at least he was before the Avengers. I think Iron Man is like way up there now as well. But they'd be dumb to not keep making Spider-Man movies, because come on, whether they're animated or live action, they fucking crush it. So, but yeah, I was very vocal before this movie came out of like, there are way too many things in this movie. There are way too many characters in this movie. There are way too many plot points in this movie. There's no way they're going to do this right. And I was fucking wrong. I was very wrong. Now, I was right in a way that, like, but one of the ways that they made me wrong is by not dwelling and trying to, like, this is not Spider-Man 3. This is not, we're going to introduce a character, explain their entire backstory, and then have their own subplot. Then we're going to introduce another character and try to introduce their... It's not three
They assume
movies
you've
mashed
done
together.
the homework.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even if you haven't, it works, which is cool. Like, I think that it's... Because these characters are being introduced and the main character doesn't know who they are, he's a great audience stand-in, which doesn't usually happen in these superhero movies, where, like, the stand-in for the audience is the main character. It's usually somebody like Ned or somebody like MJ or somebody like that who's like a normal person.
Right.
Or Happy or, whomever. Or Pepper in the Iron Man movies. She's like, everything's exploding around and she's the only one that's freaking out. These sorts of things. But they really did a fantastic job. I saw this at a drive-in.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't actually go to the theater.
How was that?
It was good. The screen was too dark.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, you went during the
but-
day, didn't you?
No, I went at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went at night.
I've never actually been to one of those.
How does this?
You never been to a drive-in?
Does the sound come through your car? Do you like tune to a radio station?
Yeah,
or
it does. You
something?
tune into a radio station.
Nice.
The problem
cool.
was
I love that.
I don't leave my car running because I like the environment. And so I turned off my car. But my car radio will only stay on for so long.
No.
So it actually cut out. And then I had to, like, turn the power back on and tune back in. So I missed, like, 2 lines in the movie. But other than that,
God,
it was fine. But I was like in the front row and everything. So the only problem that I had 2 problems actually, and these are totally unrelated to the movie. But one was that they charged $30 per car, and because I am a married man with a young daughter, and there's a pandemic about. We can't have babysitters, so it was just me paying $30 to sit in a car alone and watch this movie.
I didn't realize Audrey didn't go with you.
No.
I thought you
Who
would've-
was going to take care of the kid?
I thought you were bringing her.
No. We thought about that, but there's no way I was going to have her in the car for 2.5 hours. It's just...
Yeah. That makes
We
sense.
could have, but we're just going to let her just play. So Audrey has not seen it yet, which is a crying shame because... we had an outdoor visit with my sister-in-law Alyssa, and every time that Audrey and Riley would like walk down the road to like check the mail or just like ride on something, Alyssa would be like, "Okay, so what happened in Spider-Man? So we got to talk about this," and then we would have like 45 seconds to talk about it before she would come back because we can't talk about it because she hasn't seen it yet. But yeah, so I saw it there, and the other thing that sucked was I wasn't gonna eat dinner because I was just gonna like. They're like, hey, we make our money through concessions. I was going to buy like a huge thing of popcorn and a drink. And then I got there and they're like, yeah, our concession stand's closed because we ran out of popcorn. And I'm like, son of a
Ran out of
bitch.
popcorn. What is
Yeah.
going on?
You mean the things that take up like this much room individually?
It's like
and you
the
can just
one
pack
thing
them
you want
into
in
these
a movie
huge bags?
theater.
Everybody thought,
Exactly.
support your local drive-in, and
Yeah. But I ended up just supporting it through paying $30 for a ticket to the movie.
Yeah.
crazy.
I get it because I guess I'm
Ridiculous.
sure some people have tried to fit like 30 people in one car before.
Oh, that absolutely
bring-
happens, yeah.
If you pay $30 and you bring a clown car,
Yeah.
you're getting a great deal.
Yeah.
But it was just
Oh my
me and
God.
my lonesome hybrid. So
That's so funny.
But yeah, it was a good experience. I really wish I could have seen it like in the theaters. I would have. This is one of those movies that I would have gone to like an IMAX or something.
Yeah.
But thankfully, this movie will probably be around. That maybe once we get vaccines for the little ones, then I'll be able to go to a theater and it'll be good. But
I mean, it's still playing, at least by us. It's playing every hour still, which is nuts.
Yeah,
And-
dude, it earned
and
33
it's gonna be
million.
playing-
It earned 33 million this past weekend. It's insane.
It's ridiculous.
it's going to
fourth
be in
weekend.
theaters for several months to come at least,
Yeah,
probably.
it's
So
wild.
I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't really have anything else to say about it spoiler free because I want to talk about all the spoilers.
Yeah.
So
It's really hard to talk about this without the spoilers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just basically, it's amazing.
Well, that,
Yeah,
and I
so-
will say, like, in terms of things that, like, if you have seen the trailers and somehow you haven't seen this movie yet, pretty much everything that they show in the trailer is, like, the first 20 minutes
Yeah.
of the movie,
It
which
definitely
is pretty
doesn't go.
impressive.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like the trailers did not ruin the movie. Where That happens a lot of times.
Going into it, I was convinced, like, what else do they have to show me?
Right.
And then, when I saw it, I was still like, oh my God.
Yeah, definitely.
And they had tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But go see it if you haven't seen it. It's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah, go see it for sure.
Yeah.
Highest recommendations.
So, the time has now come, my friends,
Indeed.
to talk about this movie, to spoil the ever-loving crap out of this movie. And I can't wait to do it. So here's how we're going to start. I'm going to read the plot synopsis from Wikipedia to refresh some of us who have not seen this movie in a little bit, and also to kind of catch everybody up to speed who may have also seen it on opening night. So here we go. Spoilers.
Get ready.
It's the plot for Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh, man.
After Quentin Beck frames Peter Parker for murder and reveals his identity as Spider-Man, Parker, his girlfriend MJ, best friend Ned Leeds, and Aunt May are interrogated by the Department of Damage Control. Oh my God. And then comes one of my favorite moments in the entire movie and a fantastic cameo. Lawyer Matt Murdock gets Parker's charges dropped, but the group grapples with negative publicity. So during this scene, when they introduce Daredevil into this, I was like, fuck yeah, because we just talked about in Hawkeye, we just talked about their introduction.
Oh, yeah, you saw it the other way around because you saw Hawkeye before you saw Spider-Man. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, but when we were talking about Hawkeye, I had seen it because then I was like, I cannot wait. We've talked about Kingpin getting introduced. I cannot wait to talk about the other shoe dropping in this movie. And also the chef's kiss reveal of when the brick gets thrown through his window and he catches it behind his back.
That was great.
Yeah.
And he's like, how did you? He's like, I'm a very good lawyer. I'm like, yes.
I just love how it felt so right, but it also kind of came out of nowhere. And it was like right at the beginning, so you're like, what else does this movie have in store for us? This is crazy.
I think that's one.
It has a lot.
It has a lot, but like, it has very few things that I didn't expect. Like, when that happened, I was like, who else is going to be here?
Right.
And then, because you kind of figure everything else that is to come. But, I mean, not that I was, upset by it. I was waiting for,
I didn't expect him at all. I didn't expect Daredevil at all.
Yeah.
That was a incredibly wonderful surprise, as was the other ones. A lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, Tom's not going to be the only Spider-Man in this movie," and I was like, "He is going to be." He's not, and I was incredibly happy. But a lot of these things, like you look at it, and it's like Andrew Garfield was like, I would have loved to have been involved. Like, I never got a call. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. And then he's...
The man is an actor.
Yeah.
It's literally his job.
I love it.
His job is to lie professionally.
Did you see what he said, though? Because he talked about this on social media. He talked about this on Instagram. He's like, I hated lying to people.
Yeah.
But I thought of it as a game. Like, I thought of it as like, I'm doing a game, and this game is for whatever, and I'm like, that's very good, Yeah. Oh, hey, cat watch.
Oh, snap!
Nice. I shut my door so that Finn and Jake don't come up in here because they are messes.
Jess has Linguini. He was in here, but he ran off.
But yeah, so I absolutely loved that thing. And, it's a great... It's not just a way to get Matt Murdock and Charlie Cox's Daredevil into the MCU. It's also, like, a great callback to the comics, because whenever a lot of superheroes get into trouble and they need legal representation, Matt Murdock is typically the one who does it. And he's been Peter Parker's lawyer in the show as well. So let's go on from there. After Parker, MJ, and Ned's MIT applications are rejected, Parker goes to the New York Sanctum to ask Stephen Strange for help. Strange suggests a spell that would make people forget Parker is Spider-Man, but it's corrupted when Parker repeatedly requests alterations to let his loved ones retain their memories. Strange contains the spell to stop it from working and makes Parker leave. So this is what was in all the trailers I think this is really interesting. A lot of people are like, well, Strange, it was your fault. This whole thing is not Peter's fault. And it's like, well, I mean, come on.
I could watch scenes in the mirror dimension for like literally hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
They're
Big
just so much
Inception
fun.
vibes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely love that.
I was also thinking, I'm like, Doctor Strange, if you would have just kind of had a little sit down with Peter for like 10 minutes, probably could have resolved a lot of these issues too. Just tell him what was going on.
Yeah,
talk about it before you start casting the spell. Like
I know the whole
element.
Oh yeah, I know the whole thing is like, Peter Parker's still a kid, so he's like still, but like, you could have given him a little walkthrough or something.
yeah.
Well, and then afterwards, after he like contains the spell, he's like, yeah, whatever, this is about the school and different stuff like that. And he's like, wait, what? What are they like? And they turned you down. And he's like, well, I didn't call them. And it's like, you didn't call the college to talk to them. You came to me first to warp reality and all this. And it's just like, but if you know people who can just fix stuff like that, like it makes sense to go to them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, there is an element of it that I do legitimately think is Strange's fault, because the ego on this dude to just be like,
let's do it. Let's go. It's so dangerous.
I'm just going to do this. And Wang is like, don't do this, dude. Like, and he's like, it's fine. We do this all the time. But it's, and he was like, okay, all right. So I'm going to change a little thing here and I'm going to change a little thing here. And it's, it's equal parts fault. So I'm not going to let that fall squarely on Peter. So then Peter goes to the bridge to try to convince the MIT administrator to reconsider MJ and Ned's applications, but he's attacked by Dr. Octopus, played expertly by Alfred Molina, the star of maybe the best live-action Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 2, which is a fantastic movie. Power of the Sun in the palm of my hand, which they actually quote in this movie, which I loved.
Such great callbacks.
Yeah. So there's that. Octavius
just so you know, I'm just fixing the stream audio.
Oh.
In case anybody's wondering what's happening.
Okay, cool.
But you're good.
If there's anything we can do. Okay. Octavius rips Parker's nanotechnology from his iron spider suit, which bonds with his mechanical tentacles and allows Parker to disable them. And then the Green Goblin arrives. Yay! Willem Dafoe! He arrives and attacks. Strange teleports Parker back to the Sanctum and locks Octavius in a cell next to Kurt Connors, also known as the Lizard, who I think was voiced by somebody else in this movie, right?
No, so I think what happened, this was kind of a weird thing for me too, because I think one of the biggest issues that I had with the movie is how like Sandman was Sandman the whole time. And like the movies, you don't really see him as Sandman. You see him as like a person for most of the time. But apparently Rice Ifans, I think it's how you pronounce her name, Reese, and Thomas Hayden Church, they like are obviously a lot older now, so they don't look quite like the characters or something, and they couldn't get them back. So I think they were only on set for like a day or something, but they did, lend some of their voices. But I think they used some footage from the old movies and stuff. So that's kind of why you don't see them.
Is that
as,
why it's like that? Like Sandman?
So that's why like Lizard is in the van for a lot when they're up in the apartment. That's why Sandman is like all Sandman all the time for a lot of it, because I think it was part to do with they were a lot older, so they didn't look quite like their characters, and also just I think some other issues. But that's kind of why those two were a little more. And they were
interesting. Okay, yeah, and that actually makes sense, because they wouldn't have to explain that Otto and Norman are older, because in their universe, this thing happened a long time ago.
Right, yeah.
Because Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is also that much older, because like this was... Those events happened as long ago as the movies happened. So and they were giving Jamie Foxx a makeover anyway, so they didn't really need to fix that. That makes sense.
Yeah, so it was interesting when I was reading that. I was like, that was like the one thing that really threw me off, because I was like, I like watched the movies right before, so it was all fresh in my mind. I was like, Flint Marco's not Sandman the whole time. Why is he always looking like Sandman? What's going on? So it kind of made a lot of sense. And I was like, okay.
But also, like, plot wise, did we really need that much more Lizard and Sandman in this movie?
I really liked how Flint was like more of a much as he is in like much like he is in Spider-Man 3, he's not a bad dude.
Right.
No, he's not.
He's of all of them. I think Octavius, before he's like his mind is taken over by the tentacles, is legitimately a really good person. I think that Flint is just caught up in some really bad circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think that the others are kind of like their powers determine their madness or things like this.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of them are well-meaning, and there's only really like a couple of real villains amongst them. But even like with Norman, like you can see that he's trying to be better.
He's fighting with himself.
Yeah.
Which I like. He's got the whole Gollum thing going on.
Yeah, he does
Although
a
he
very
did-
good, like, and it's been a long time since I've seen Spider-Man 1, but, like, the Jekyll and Hyde of that character, that, like, or I guess...
It's so good.
Like, his portrayal of it, and I haven't read a ton of Spider-Man, but, like, is he that way in the comics as well, where it's like...
No, he's the worst.
Oh.
Norman Osborn is the fucking worst. There's
Like in a good way
recent
or like
arc.
in a bad way?
Yeah.
I mean, he's evil.
Because he's
Okay,
not
yeah.
a very nice man here either, but...
Yeah.
No, but there's part of it where he's like feels regret for the things he's. I mean, I don't know. I'm not super well read on a bunch of Norman Osborn, but the stuff
Yeah.
that I've seen him in, he is a villain. Like he is just
Okay.
a bad person.
Gotcha.
And in one of the recent runs, he actually becomes president of the United States, and then he bonds with Carnage and becomes the Red Goblin, and he's like maybe one of the most powerful people on the planet.
Jeez.
Wow. I'm just going to Google that real quick.
Yeah, dude,
That
Red
sounds
Goblin.
awesome.
So that's part of the Null event where they find like the god of the symbiotes, who like basically turns Red Goblin into like a manifestation of himself, and then he
man.
like has control over all the other symbiotes on the planet. It's wild, dude. Imagine all the tech stuff that Goblin has, and then also the powers of Carnage.
Oh, man.
And that like insanity. It's wild, dude. Red Goblin is wild.
Go comics.
Yeah, comics are great, dude. Comics are great. But yeah, I really liked how they had the depth. And I was saying earlier that I was very wrong about this movie being able to juggle everything. And part of that reason is because the only three antagonists that really have anything going on are Electro, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Sandman is in it for a little bit, but not very much. Lizard is barely in it. But I think that it works. I think that by not focusing equal time on each of the villains, it actually makes it feel like more real. Like it actually makes it feel like more, because like if you have a bunch of people doing something, not everybody's going to be equally involved. You know what I mean? It just kind of gave like some depth. It was like a group project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Peter and
Liz
and
just sat in a
Norman-
van. He didn't do shit.
Yeah, he didn't do shit, but yeah, he still got the same grade as me on the final.
Yeah, come on. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. But I liked that. So let's see. Strange explains that before he was able to contain the corrupted spell, it summoned some people from other universes who know Spider-Man's identity. He orders Parker, MJ, and Ned to find and capture them. They are able to locate and retrieve Max Dillon, also known as Electro, and Flint Marko, also known as Sandman. So that I thought that was really, really interesting. I think I really liked the touch that they had about Electro when they were fighting near the power plant, where he was talking about how different the energy of this universe feels and how different he looks and all that sort of stuff. It's really interesting, and that kind of led me to think that, like, man, is Electro the most powerful of all these people that he's going up against? Like, there was legitimately a part in the movie where I was like, I legitimately don't know how you stop this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, somebody with Electro's powers who can turn into energy, who can be anywhere, and can summon all the electrical power in the world and just use it. Like, how do you fight that? Like, I don't know.
With the power of teamwork.
Yeah. But yeah, that was I think the point when as ridiculous as this could sound talking about a movie about superheroes, that was the part where I had to like suspend my disbelief, where I was like, they could beat this guy that's made of pure power that could like, because like a lightning bolt can just like melt shit. Like it could just melt like a steel tower. Like if it's not properly insulated or grounded or stuff like that. Like electricity is incredibly powerful, just on its own. But anyway, all that stuff. Okay, here we go. Here's the big one. Osborn reclaims control of himself from his split personality of Green Goblin. He goes to a feast building where May comforts him before Peter retrieves him. While discussing their battles with Spider-Man, Osborn, Octavius, and Dylan realize that they were pulled from their universes just before their deaths. Strange prepares to reverse the contained spell and send the villains back to their respective universes, but Peter argues that they should first cure the villains' powers and insanity to prevent their deaths upon their return. Parker steals the spell, traps Strange in the mirror dimension, and with May, takes the villains to Happy Hogan's apartment. I'm going to stop at this point in the paragraph because there's a lot of stuff to talk about even there. Which is, it's not just about taking these people back, it's also about the canon of these movies. Like, in these movies, they're warped away right before they're going to die, which I think is a fascinating idea. So the one of the premises of this is that we're trying to stop the endings, the tragic endings of these previous movies from happening, which I think is nuts. Mum Jum in the chat says, I've played Pokemon. Flying Electric is a tough combo to beat. Yes, it is.
I said, can confirm, Zapdos is a bastard.
Yes. And Electro is definitely a flying electric type. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. You can't use ground because they're flying. You can't get to them. That's awesome. So I thought that was a really interesting wrinkle.
I thought it was an interesting wrinkle, but it did seem a little corny to me. Like they're like we have to heal them, we have to fix them, and like because I'm of the mind of like at this point like there's nothing we can do to fix the MCU. Like the timelines have split, everything's like completely destroyed, all that. And Doctor Strange is out here like we don't know what's going to happen if you do this. Like you're really going to mess up. Like this is their destiny. This is what's supposed to happen. Like yeah. I'm all for that, and then here comes Peter Parker. Like, no, we're gonna really mess this stuff up and do whatever we want.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What is it the TVU or whatever?
Yeah, what's the TVU have to say about this?
About this?
The TVA, yeah.
TVA.
Really.
What is it? The Time Variance
Authority.
Yeah.
Authority. Yeah.
Well, that's also messed up too. So who knows what's going on with the TVA?
Exactly. Yeah. At this point,
that's what I mean. Now it doesn't matter, but like
because they're not stopping shit,
right? But like they don't know that.
It was just It was also like speaking of the corny thing, like I get it. And it's it was a good way to get everything together, but it was funny that it all came down to like all you had to do was press a button and then everything was fixed.
Right.
It's just like it was pretty silly, but hey.
Well, I mean, there is. I think for some of them, it's interesting and like definitely more complicated than others. But like, I think for Doc Ock, it literally was that easy. Like, because there was only one thing that went wrong with this experiment, and that's that the chip got overloaded, and then nobody ever fixed it.
Yeah.
It's like, so the interesting thing is, it's kind of like going back and addressing plot holes in the previous movies. Where it's just like, wait a second, couldn't you have just fixed the chip and then not had to kill this man? Like, and yeah,
but he wouldn't stand still.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've only got 4 arms. He's got 4 metal arms and then 2 more arms. What am I gonna do? But yeah, I do think that's really interesting. And the same thing for Green Goblin is like, you could have listened to your second in command and gone back to formula, but you didn't. You know what I mean? Like back to formula. God, Willem Dafoe is so good.
Yeah, he's
oh wait, can we talk about his meme moment in the movie?
Yes, dude.
It's so
yes, good. I love it. Chris, take it away.
They're all standing in the basement, and he's like, "Oh man, like we need some kind of scientist or whatever." And he goes, I'm something of a scientist myself.
so
I love it. The funny thing about that is him saying that in this movie leads me to believe that that's just something he's the guy that stands in the corner at parties and waits for somebody to talk about some popular mechanics.
Yep.
Piece that they read, and then he's like, I'm I'm something of a scientist myself, and then just talks about whatever he wants to talk about. He's just that guy.
Yeah.
Which I get. Like, I totally imagine that from Norman. But yeah, so this was a cool. This leads to a really cool moment. There's the Spider-Man versus Doctor Strange fight in the mirror dimension, which, as Chris said, I could watch all day. I love it. It's so cool, and I do love the way that he beats Doctor Strange is by looking at the mirror dimension like a math equation, which is awesome because it incorporates one of the things that like I don't really see. Like, this is another way where I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man like kind of embraced more of what it was like to be Peter Parker than Tom Holland's. I don't really get that Tom Holland is brilliant because a lot of the stuff that he's had has been kind of handed to him by Tony. Like, granted, he made his web formula, but
yeah, I think a lot of that was kind of off screen, which is interesting. Like, I feel like because we've only seen him since he's been in the MCU. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but that's kind of the interesting part of Tom Holland is we don't see his beginnings and stuff.
But even if we did, we'd be like, oh my god, there's another Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, right.
Uncle Ben died. Like, we see that whole origin.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I did think that was interesting because I think that a lot of, and I mentioned this earlier, a lot of what this movie does is a make good and trying to bridge the gap between where Tom Holland is as Peter Parker in these movies and where classical Peter Parker is. And I think by the end of the movie, when all of this is said and done, he's almost exactly where I want Spider-Man to be, which is broke, unknown, and like, a lot of stuff has gone down. Jaded has baggage that he's got to deal with, which like I think is part of the like everyman struggle of Spider-Man and Peter Parker that we haven't really had because he's been best friends with a billionaire that just gives him whatever. Which is an interesting new wrinkle on the character, but I think steps a bit away from what most people, just speaking generally, making gross generalizations, what I feel like most people love about Peter Parker, which is that he's relatable. And it's not really relatable to be best friends with like an Elon Musk figure.
True.
Just saying.
You guys don't know Elon Musk?
I don't. If you do, you'll have to introduce
He
us.
told me to buy all the Shiba Inu, and now I'm just poor. I don't know what happened.
Damn it.
That's true friendship.
I want to introduce him to the idea of a train so that he can stop building these dumb tunnels for single cars. Shit is so fucking stupid. But anyway, let's see. Parker steals the spell traps. Yeah, they go to Happy's apartment. And he traps Strange in the mirror dimension by stealing his sling ring, which I thought was weird because in the Doctor Strange movie, they take his sling ring and make him at one point he doesn't have it and he's still able to do it. So I don't understand why he isn't able to just get out. But anyway, I know that's how he's trapped other people, but didn't he make one specifically without a sling ring before in the movie? Isn't that like a plot point?
I know she puts him. No. I know what you're thinking of. The ancient one.
She puts him on the mountain.
Puts him on the mountain.
He has a ring then.
Right.
He's learning to use it, but I think at one point they trap people elsewhere by taking their sling rings. But I think he also get trapped somewhere without one, and he like is able to get back. Like he's able to actually do it without one.
Please pause while we watch Doctor Strange. We'll be back in a few minutes.
We'll be right back.
We'll be back in an hour and a half.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yes,
but legit, like I'm just gonna put this out there because when that happened, I was like, wait a second, he should be able to can still do this.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe not. But that was definitely something that was like a splinter in my mind. So they cure Octavius, but Osborn's goblin persona takes control and convinces the uncured villains to betray Parker. As Dylan, Marco, and Connors escape, Goblin fatally injures May. Before she dies, May tells Parker that with great power, there must also come great responsibility, which is the actual quote from the comics that a lot of people don't get right. Like the Star Wars quote, incredibly often misquoted. It's not Luke, I am your father. It's no, I am your father.
You have no proof.
Nerd bomb.
I don't believe you.
But yeah, so this powerful moment in the movie. This is the corner that the movie turns that leads to the ending,
Yeah.
which I thought was really, really great.
I would say Willem Dafoe's Goblin in this whole sequence is probably one of the most violent things that we've ever seen in the MCU, next to like Loki getting choked out by Thanos. Like, it's like of that caliber when he's getting the crap kicked out of him.
Brutal.
Yeah. And then
At the very end?
Well, no, I mean here and then again at the end when Peter is, really going to town on him, just beating the crap out of him.
When he goes dark, which
Yeah.
is another moment that I absolutely love.
Yeah. There's a lot of
and-
that in this movie.
Yeah, and what comes of it. This is a lot of people said, "Oh man, this is the darkest Spider-Man movie easily." It is. It is by far the darkest, at least of the Tom Holland movies.
The way that I described it was like being on the most horrifying but fun roller coaster of your life, where like the highs were like yeah, and then you'd like come crashing down and like be sobbing
no.
and your lows were like, "I'm going to die."
Yeah, like get me off of it,
It's like riding a wooden roller coaster that's
Yeah.
75 years old. It might be great, but you also might be killed.
Yeah.
This was awesome, and of course this gives Peter this huge loss that he's been trying to avoid, and this was also I think this was also something that happened in the comics during the Civil War event after he revealed his identity. I think somebody came and like tried to kill Aunt May and MJ.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's rough. It's rough. It was hard to watch. Not because I don't know. I thought it was hard but good to watch, which I thought was nice because like there's a lot of tension in the first movie, like in the scene in the car when he's talking to Vulture, right?
So
there's
good.
like there's a lot of tension in that one. And in the second one, there are like these moments of like, your blood runs cold when like Peter leaves the glasses with Mysterio and then leaves, and then like that whole scene when you realize what's been happening. Like, but there hasn't been anything like this, which is really, really great. And I thought it was done pretty well. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows, how far they were willing to go in this movie, and that they're not afraid to pull some punches. Because I think that's what makes characters who they are, is when they're these big transformative moments, either good or bad. So I think that's why some of these movies that are just pure action and the heroes save the day at the end and nobody dies. That's why they don't really like stick with you as much, because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just watching literally nothing. But this, everyone can relate with loss and can relate with things, and I felt like they did a good job by oh, is she alive? Is she gonna make it? Oh, well, okay, wait, no, she's not. And I think it really makes you feel for Peter and say, oh, now he's got to deal with this on top of everything else. So I think they did a good job, and I think it's very important for his character that like you said, I mean he's so much of a joyous character and loves joking around and can't believe he's in with all the Avengers and doing stuff, but now he's more of a rounded character because he's got the highs and the lows and stuff.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point about like this is what makes for well-rounded characters and for more interesting characters and movies, and I definitely agree with that. Like, I think this is one of the we've talked a lot of times when we talked about MCU, how like I just forget that Ant-Man exists because like there's no stakes.
He is small.
He's incredibly small, and it's
no
one of those
such thing as small heroes. Just wait.
just small problems. What?
Yeah. What?
But yeah, one of the things about Ant-Man is it's like there are so many things in those movies that I should love, like Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, like all of these characters, and like the idea of this. Oh, it's high science. They're doing all this quantum stuff. Like it should be exactly up my alley, and yet it's somehow less than the sum of its parts. And I think that this is Marvel and Sony saying, we've been a little bit lighthearted with Spider-Man, which is a thing people love about Spider-Man, but here's the tragedy. This is the other shoe dropping, and I think that they did it at a great time. And I think it was really good how they handled it in the scene, because at first I did think she was going to live. And then you kind of, the scene kind of turns a corner when she starts talking, and you're like, wait, why are you saying this? And then it's like, becomes increasingly obvious that that she is not walking out of here.
Yeah.
I also think it's fascinating too how, we've seen Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker lose Uncle Ben, but we didn't see them lose, or we didn't see Tom Holland lose Uncle Ben, or vice versa. We don't see the other ones lose Aunt May, but now we do see this. So it's like, it's kind of like, the reverse of the mirror of what we've seen before, but it's very different because it's a different character and different situation. And now he's like,
which
really
they actually
alone.
go into later,
yeah,
which I thought was awesome.
Definitely.
In the scene on the rooftop, which we'll definitely
so
get into.
Good.
Man, that was like that, and then another scene during the final fight were like my favorite moments in this whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Ned discovers he can create portals using Strange's sling ring. This was awesome. Not only is it awesome because they foreshadow it earlier in the movie where when they meet Doctor Strange and he's like, I think I might be magic.
Oh yeah.
Like sometimes I get a tingling in my fingers, and he's like, no, you need to like see a doctor for that. Like that's you got like some sort of a nerve.
It's like arthritis or something.
Yeah, something like that, which I thought was amazing because he's a doctor too. Like he's a surgeon. Like I think that was great. But then Ned is magic, which is great.
Here's the thing though. Like now what? Like he does all the sling ring stuff, and then he forgets everything. Or I guess like does he forget Spider-Man, but does he not forget that he opened a portal with a sling ring from Doctor Strange?
I know, yeah, that was. I wish they kind of wondered.
Yeah, like and not wonder why did I do that?
We're gonna find out during the next movie.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'll just seem like one of those. Maybe it'll be like, yeah, this is something that happened to me in a dream once. Like I opened this portal or something. Maybe it'll be like one of those things. But yeah, man, you have to assume, even with how this movie ends, that they're gonna loop them back in somehow, right?
I feel like if they do, it'll be like a Shang-Chi Wong deal. Like they'll bring him into like somehow he'll end up with those two, and like and he'll end up in the Sanctum Sanctorum or whatever it is.
Who, Ned?
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I love Ned's actor. Like I think he's awesome.
Oh,
he really does a great job.
And I really, really do like Zendaya as MJ. Like I like their chemistry, which of course is real world chemistry. But that's awesome. But yeah, we love Ned in this house. But because Ned learns how to use the sling ring, and I think he says something like, show me Peter, or show me Peter Parker, or whatever, it opens a portal into a dark alley.
Oh, so
and then somebody runs down the dark alley and hops through the portal, and it's Spider-Man. But it's not that Spider-Man. And then he takes off his mask, and it's fucking Andrew Garfield. Motherfuckers.
Oh
yes! This was my hell yeah moment from this movie. Adam, go on.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, so, going in, I'm like, they're coming back. Like, I never really was like, they're not going to come back. Like, I knew, I'm like, there's no way that they're going to drop the ball here and make them not come back in a movie like this. And, it was funny because I mentioned this before, but I recently watched the old movies. And, when Amazing Spider-Man came out, I was kind of like everybody else. I'm like, do we need another Spider-Man? I feel like we just did this. And, like, I didn't really, enjoy him. But rewatching Amazing Spider-Man, I was like, God, Andrew Garfield was really freaking good as Spider-Man. Like, I really enjoyed him. And, like, the second one has its issues, obviously, and stuff like that. So, I kind of had this newfound, appreciation for him. And just seeing that come back in the reveal, it was just like, oh man, it felt so good in my heart. I was like, yes. It was literally like one of the coolest moments in probably movie history for me because everyone kind of shared that moment. And even though we knew it was coming, they somehow still made it special because, just the circumstances. It was just, chef's kiss.
So because he was so adamant about like, man, I would have loved it. It was the specific wording that he used that I was like, damn, like they didn't get him.
Yeah.
When he was like, I know as much as you guys, but like I would have loved to have gotten a call. I was like, fuck, like come on, like they didn't bring back literally my favorite Spider-Man, like. And I love I think the Tobey movies are like easily, particularly 1 and 2, I think are easily like some of the best.
Yeah.
Like I think those are better than those movies. But we've talked about this previously on the show, but like I feel like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, like in the suit, he got the quips. He got the action. He got like the beat when he was trying to stop that person from carjacking that car. And he was like in the back seat, and he's just like, "Oh, a knife!" Like,
Oh no, tiny knives! My only weakness.
Oh no! Hey, you know that like stealing cars is a crime, right? Like he's like the guy, and he like does a backflip and like he just was perfection in the suit.
So good.
Like he's so good, and so being able to see him bring that back and bring that energy back when like Ned's Nana was like, can you clear the cobwebs out of the corner? And he's like,
so funny.
Okay, like, and he did it, I love that they were like interrogating him and like, you're not Peter Parker. And he's like, yeah, I am. Like, well, you're not Spider-Man. He's like, yeah, I am. Like, and going through that whole thing and then realizing that like something's going wrong. And then what happens with him later, man, so poignant, when they have this conversation about like what happened with him.
Oh yeah.
Were either of you, real quick, were either of you surprised that there wasn't a Miles Morales appearance in this movie of some kind?
A little. It wasn't,
No.
I wasn't like the biggest thing, but I was like, I could see them kind of seeding something, especially since, Donald
He would
Glover was in.
definitely know.
Donald Glover was Aaron, what's his name? Aaron, I forget.
Oh, he's his uncle.
Yeah, he's his uncle. That was kind of
he's Black Panther. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like.
Or not Black Panther.
Blanking.
Oh my God.
The purple guy.
Oh my God, what's his name?
We could do this, guys. We could do this. Aaron Davis.
Yeah.
The Prowler. That's it.
The Prowler.
Prowler.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I was like, oh man, yeah, I could definitely see it. But yeah, but then, I also understand. I feel like they want to give Miles his moment, and this would have been just another moment in a movie filled with moments. So
I agree.
I agree.
But
like,
yeah,
especially
definitely already too much. Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things. It was definitely a conversation that was had, but at the end of the day,
sure.
like you said, if they're going to do something like that, like I wouldn't be surprised if like Into the Spider-Verse, there's a moment where all of a sudden he ends up in a live action.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Like sequence and then pops back into.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was even a quote like Tom Holland was like, "Put me Into the Spider-Verse. I want to be in the movie. Let's do it." So you could definitely see something like that. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that didn't Tom also say something about like, I think I might be done with Spider-Man and with movies for a while, but like I think it'd be great to see Miles or something. Like I think he even said like I think it's a good time for Miles to take over or something.
He said that, and then he said, didn't he say the thing about a female Spider-Man or something?
Yeah, something about that. Yeah, too.
Yeah.
That
Dude,
was also
Spider-Gwen. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And they could do it in this universe too.
Yeah.
Which like that is like Gwen is an incredible Spider-Man, or Spider-Person. I think they call her like Ghost Spider is like her name in the comics.
Yeah, something like that.
She's very good.
Yeah.
She's very good. She's also in a rock band. She's a drummer in a rock band. Come on. Come on.
Can't beat that.
You could get a whole like Josie and the Pussycats thing going on.
I knew you were going there.
Of course I would. Come on. But yeah, instead of finding Parker, they find alternate versions of Peter from the villains' universes, who are also summoned by strange spell and who are nicknamed Peter 2 and Peter 3.
Can we just stop for a second and just say that is like such a unimportant sentence for how big of a moment that was. It's just like, oh yeah, they found some more Spider-Man. It's like, oh, okay.
You're reading through the credits. All right, that's Peter 1.
Yeah.
There should be like a mic drop. Boom. Come on.
Yeah, this one paragraph in this description.
So funny.
By the way, this is the second to the last paragraph of the plot summary, and it's not even going to cover like the enormity of all the stuff that's happening.
So funny.
But yeah, like finding him, and then I forget. I vividly remember how they brought in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I don't really remember how they brought in Tobey's Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, they kind of do it again, and then he just kind of walks through, and I thought that was like
and
fantastic.
he's wearing like plain clothes.
Yeah, which is great because then you know that you're going to get another moment of him bringing the suit out, which was another brilliant move by the team behind the film.
Yeah, it's great. Everything is handled so well. The group finds this universe's Parker, nicknamed Peter 1, who is ready to give up and send the villains home. The alternate. Oh Jesus Christ! This sentence right here is the biggest mismanagement of like the emotional weight of this story beat. The alternate Parkers share stories of losing loved ones and encourage Peter 1 to fight in May's honor, and the three Parkers develop cures for the villains.
Oh
Holy
God.
shit.
Wow.
I want to go in there and edit this right now.
No joke, yeah. But so what happens is that Tom Holland's Peter Parker has basically given up after May's death. But MJ and Ned explain to Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man what they have to do. And they just explain what happened. Which I don't remember how they find out. How they find out that May died. Does he call them or something?
I think it's on the news, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
They mentioned the news like 4 times. Like the span of 10
that
minutes.
amazing shot of Holland standing on top of the building in the rain with like J. Jonah Jameson spouting all
my
his
God,
nonsense and stuff.
There's like a Russian poster of that.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And so then, basically, the two alternate universe Spider-Men go and find Tom on the roof, and they basically introduce themselves. And this is the best scene in the entire movie, I think, because they basically commiserate, and you can see, particularly in Andrew Garfield's eyes, you can see the pain.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel like you see it in Tobey, but in Tobey it translates to more of like just a weariness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
exactly.
me.
That's exactly
he's
what I would
just
put it.
he's just so tired from all the tragedy that has happened. His life is good. He talks about it like he's still with MJ and all of that sort of stuff. I feel like him hesitating to describe what has happened with them leads me to believe that maybe they've had their daughter who becomes Spinneret and becomes her own superhero in her own right, which is a cool bit of the comics. Which could also mean that Tobey founded his own like Stark Industries style Parker Industries, which would be a really cool wrinkle. And then you see just the absolute anguish in Andrew Garfield, because at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, Gwen died and he wasn't able to save her, even though he desperately tried. That moment in that movie broke me.
That's so brutal. I was like, my God.
That's
Yeah,
like
forgot-
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I actually never saw Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was like I kept meaning to watch it, and like I said, I watched it right before, and I was like, oh, she's gonna be fine, and I was like, holy crap, she's not fine.
Yeah, she is super, super not fine, and that scene goes way harder than it had.
I thought the web
any
kind of
right
reaching
to.
out as a hand was a little much, but besides that,
That was
Yeah, that was
that was very cheesy. But other than that, I think that's a pretty much perfect scene.
like
Yeah, it
as
was.
someone. I don't think I've seen that movie since it came out. Like
it's
I think we saw
brutal,
it
man.
opening weekend. That's the only thing that I remember. Is
Yeah.
like that, like 30
That
second
sound and
sequence.
the snap
and the
is just like-
snap. oh
Yes.
my god,
The crack. Yeah.
Yeah,
brutal.
Yeah, it is absolutely brutal. And here's the thing. A lot of people say Amazing Spider-Man 2 is terrible. You can't say it's terrible because it has that scene in it, and that elevates it from
it's
terrible
no
to
Spider-Man
at least
3. I will give it that. It is no Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. But yeah, it's wild.
yeah.
It's absolutely wild. And then they actually capitalize on it later, which is just Another chef's kiss moment.
So good.
So here we're gonna see how the last paragraph of this Wikipedia thing goes. The group lures Dylan. That's sick. The group lure Dylan. That's not right.
No,
it's the group lures. This is a typo.
Oh man, come on, people.
The group lure Dylan, Marco, and Connors to the Statue of Liberty. Peter 1 and Peter 2 cure Marco and Connors, while Octavius arrives to help cure Dylan, and Ned frees Strange from the mirror dimension with a portal. So the cool thing about this is that they were able to help fix Otto on the scene, and then he's basically fine and is able to meet up with him. But then before they even do this, they have a cool scene where like basically they talk we didn't even finish talking about the rooftop scene where Tobey Maguire basically talks to Tom Holland and tells him about how Ben died, about how his uncle Ben died, and how he shared that quote with him, and how that's kind of become his guiding light. And then Andrew Garfield talks about that scene that we just talked about in Amazing Spider-Man 2 when Gwen dies, and how in a beautiful expansion on his character, he says, after that, I went to a very dark place and I stopped pulling my punches when I was fighting villains, which if you know how strong Spider-Man is, that's not good, because Spider-Man is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Like if he doesn't pull punches, he's going to be killing people, like easily. Like he could. I'm gonna be honest. Like a lot of people talk a lot of sugar about Iron Man. I think if Spider-Man wasn't pulling his punches, he could kill Iron Man. Like pretty.
I mean,
easily.
I think he would kill pretty much anybody. Like, but this is always like
Yeah.
this was the Batman Arkham City argument, or Arkham Knight argument, where you're driving around the Batmobile, running people over. He's like,
yeah.
"But I don't kill anyone."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't kill anybody.
Do you tell yourself that, Bruce? Whatever you want.
Yeah, Spider-Man is legitimately one of the physically strongest characters in the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, so if he's not pulling punches, he's murdering people.
Yeah.
Which is, it is really, really dark choice for Andrew Garfield. But one of the things that I thought was interesting, which I saw in the news, is that when they were bringing them onto the project, they asked both Toby and Andrew, like when they were kind of pitching them the project and they weren't even sure that they were going to get them, they were like, if you came back, what would you want to do with the character? Like, is there something that you would want to say? Is there something that you would want to explore?
Yeah. I actually wrote about this story, so like I'm pretty familiar with it because they
go for it, man.
Yeah, because this also came out in the news with Willem Dafoe and a lot of other characters. Like they didn't want to just come back for like oh hey, look who's back, look who's here. Like they wanted to actually really mean something, and especially with Toby.
Great, because that means they mean business, which is good.
And especially with Toby and Andrew, like the writers on the film, they specifically said like this movie would not have been what it is without Garfield and Maguire's input. Like they shaped the trajectory of the movie. Obviously, the big plot points were pointed out and stuff, but a lot of some of the conversations and talks and how they wanted things to end up, they like really brought them in and were like, let's make this the continuation of what you guys wanted to be, what happened, and I think that's what really kind of enticed everybody and got it all to work, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. They really are owed a huge debt, because without it would have been really easy to just pull them in for cameos.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It would have been incredibly easy, but instead they did. I don't want to say they did the impossible, because I don't think that it's impossible, but they did something that's really unlikely, which is to leave both of those Spider-Men in a way better position than they were even when we left them. Even if you like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he has more depth because he's in this movie.
Well, not only that, but like I think, at least for me, like the best part of it is it doesn't leave either of them on a sour note. Like both of those Spider-Men and their movies, it's like, oh yeah, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's great, but Spider-Man 3 is kind of a pile of garbage. And then, and then you can do the same thing with Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like, people have, what they want to say about that movie. Like, this overshadows a lot of that negativity, I think, and I think it will moving forward for those guys, which is great, because they were really great as Spider-Man.
And I think they also really shaped Tom Holland's Peter Parker too, which I think it really helped, give him perspective and see like, oh man, other people have gone through what I have in a weird way, alternate dimension, whatever, blah blah blah. But it's like really kind of giving him someone on his level to like, because like you said, it was kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like you can't really relate to someone who's best friends with a multi-billionaire, and like, but Peter Parker's like, you can't really relate to anybody else because who else can swing from a building and do all this stuff and has lost their family, and it's like literally you can. So it's like it was really interesting, I think, for him to be able to have these conversations with himself.
Yeah, and like, you know, one of the classic pushbacks when people experience tragedy of any kind is when people try to empathize, and you can say you don't understand what I'm going through.
Yep.
And this just cuts right through that, and it's like, no, I'm the only one who knows exactly what you're going through.
Well, me and him, this guy.
And there's two of us. Yeah. Which is so awesome, and like, and the way that Tom's Peter learns from Toby's Peter and Andrew's Peter, I think is a huge part of what leaves him in this spot to become the Spider-Man that we all know and love, which is awesome, which we're going to get into in a second. So basically, what did we say? Peter 1 and Peter 2 cure Marco and Connors while Octavius arrives to help cure Dylan, and Ned frees Strange from the mirror dimension with a portal, which is awesome. And then basically, one of the things we didn't mention earlier is that they actually try to convince Doctor Strange, and I think that like we kind of mentioned, I think Adam alluded to like fate and destiny and these sorts of things earlier, but they actually try to bring Doctor Strange into their plan, which kind of Peter and May came up with when they saw how kind of not pathetic, but like
how broken,
how busted Norman was.
Yeah.
He's like really broken up, and he hates what has happened.
Yeah,
and he hates what he has done. And I think that is a legitimate, like a lot of the time I think we mentioned earlier, Chris might have mentioned like, oh, we got to fix the bad guys, and it's like, you know, whatever. But like when you see people like Otto, who's a genuinely good man who is going to die for no good reason, or you see somebody like Norman who has so much potential and regrets the mistakes that he's made in the past, like, I mean, it takes a really cold person to not want to help them make good on that sort of thing. And so I appreciate that. At the same time, Stephen Strange has way bigger things to worry about, like the universe and the multiverse and these sorts of things. So when they originally try to convince him, hey, let's try to fix them and send them back, he's like, nah, like we just need to do this. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, their death is like totally meaningless.
Yeah.
Which is like a really cold, but like at the scope of the things he's thinking about.
And he's also set a precedent for it in like Infinity War, saying like, you guys don't matter, the mission matters.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what I think was, like I said, MCU they know what's going on. It's good stuff. And
That man knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did he say? If it comes down to sacrificing you or the kid,
I won't hesitate or something.
Versus the time stone, I'm not. It's the time stone. I won't hesitate.
Yeah.
And the only reason he spares, the only reason he even spares Tony is because he realizes that Tony has to survive for them to win.
Right.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting. So they free him, and then at this point, they're like, hey, but look, like they free him from the mirror dimension, and Ned and MJ say, look, like they've already helped fix Otto, like we're doing it. And he's like, I guess you are doing it. That's pretty great, you know. But there's this scene in between these two scenes where the three Peters are in the lab, which I thought was awesome.
Oh, that was amazing. Talking about where the webs come from, and talking about the organic webs and stuff.
Oh my god, I mean, it just comes out of you. So good. Wait, hold on. Does it come out of anywhere else? Yeah. Does it come out of your butt? Like, no, it just comes out of my wrists. Like, I thought that was such a great moment when Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is like, wait, what is that? Web cartridges?
Yeah.
What is that?
I know. It's just,
wait, you guys can't just do it?
I also love the lines when they were like, I think Andrew Garfield or Toby and Tom Holland were talking about, you know, I fought an alien in space. I fought aliens, and Andrew Garfield's just like, I want to fight an alien. It's just so good. Like he has so many good moments where it's just like, oh man, Andrew, you deserve so much better too with this.
And this is why, like, one of the great things where they're like, yeah, he's the middle brother.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
He's the middle brother. Like the oldest brother got to do a lot of cool stuff. He's like, yeah, I fought an alien from space.
Oh, and oh my god, the Avengers line too.
And Tom was like, yeah, I was in the Avengers. Oh, that sounds amazing. What is that?
A band?
Like, is that a band?
So many good lines. They're just
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the quipness. I mean, that's what makes it. Is like Peter Parker on his own is great, but like having that many of them, just like
They did it so well. Like it could have come off as cheesy, but it just felt so real. It was so good.
Yeah, and speaking of, it could have been cheesy. The moment when Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker is like, man, like, you got to fight an alien? This guy went to space? Like,
so good.
I suck. And he's like, no, you're amazing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that could have been cheesy, but like you see Toby's delivery is like, he means it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. And it's like of the three of them, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has gotten to challenge the fewest, crazy threats, but like he also only had 2 movies as opposed to Toby's 3 and like Tom's how many?
47,
Like,
I think, right now. Something like that.
Yeah. Something like he's been in so many of these. But yeah, like, wait, did I say awesome?
No, you said
I didn't mean to say awesome. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was really, really great because, like, I do think that I think that's basically the writers of the movie and also the characters in the movie saying basically what I felt, which is, yeah, Andrew Garfield, you did a great job, dude. Like, you did a great job.
I know.
Like,
I was
it's
like,
not your
rooting for
fault.
him.
you are just as worthy to hold the Spider-Man mantle as the rest.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
You did a great job.
Definitely.
You served well. And I think that his appearance in this and like the depth that he added to that role now, I feel like an interesting thing is like this is kind of now like the end cap for those movies as well. Like you could watch like Tobey's 1, 2, 3 and then No Way Home. For Andrew Garfield, you could watch Amazing Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 2 and then No Way Home. And that's like a great, because that ends their stories essentially.
Yeah.
Although I do know that a lot of people are asking for Andrew Garfield to come back for another run, which I would love. I would love to get another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie. That'd be awesome.
I don't think any like franchise has ever done that as far as like a Marvel superhero is concerned, right? Like
gone this long and then
and then just been like, yeah, you know what? Just give him a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so interesting because,
one.
obviously we'll talk about the whole, Venom thing at the end and all this stuff, but like, it's interesting because like Venom was in the MCU, but then Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy's character went back, but there's like a little bit of Venom left. So maybe, Andrew Garfield will fight in another universe and Tom Holland will be over here. So it's like they kind of set that up where there could be a different Venom in the MCU, and then over at Sony bring Andrew Garfield back. It's like it's kind of interesting what they're kind of building here.
Well, like, would you want a Andrew Garfield versus Venom movie, or would you want like Andrew Garfield to do his own thing and then Venom to keep doing whatever Venom's doing?
I mean, I love when everybody comes together, but
yeah,
that's like my thing. But like, I'm a big fan of that. But it's interesting.
I haven't seen Venom 2. So
I haven't watched it yet.
I just saw the end credits thing.
Yeah,
for sure. But like, I don't really like the way that Venom looks in that movie, so I hope that them leaving that little part of the symbiote doesn't mean that it's going to look the same.
It won't.
Because like,
no,
I think it looks like.
Also, why didn't that little piece of symbiote go back? Like, why is that immune to everything?
I just like to think it just like hopped off.
Yeah,
he was just like, oh no.
It's like the train was going and it just left. But it's it's.
I mean, that's how Carnage was made.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a little red splooch came out and then it ended up bonding with Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah,
but like I think it happens differently in the movie, but I haven't seen that yet. I do want to see it. I need to remember that and like actually go watch it. I think I need to watch that and the Eternals.
That comes out Wednesday on Disney+.
Yeah, Eternals is coming on like the 12th.
Honestly, we don't have to spend too much time, but I actually liked Eternals a lot more than everybody else. I thought it kind of got a bad rap. I really enjoyed kind of what it was. I was a fan of it.
It's got a lot of people I like in it. I'm definitely going to watch it with an open mind.
Yeah.
But
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so here we go. Okay, so this let's see. Goblin appears and unleashes the contained spell, which begins pulling more people in from other universes. Strange attempts to hold them off while an enraged Peter 1 tries to kill Goblin. This was a great scene. A great scene because Goblin is like going ham. Willem Dafoe completely unhinged in the best way.
Unreal.
I love it. I absolutely adore it. And then you see Tom Holland's Peter go to that dark place that Andrew Garfield's Peter went. And he just starts beating the ever-loving shit out of Willem Dafoe's Goblin. And you watch it and you see both the Spider-Man kind of like land nearby and they're watching because he's handling his business. And then it's like, okay, this is going on a little bit too long. Okay, this is going on too long, right? Like we gotta do something about this. Like it's the angel face scene from Fight Club.
Yeah.
It's not obviously nothing in a Marvel movie is ever going to be like that, but it's like
it's that feeling of like
it's that feeling of like
You went over
this
the
is
edge
not
here.
this is not a good guy fighting a bad guy. This is somebody letting their demons out on someone else's at the cost of someone else's body. It gets brutal and like maybe it was just me imagining it, but did they like kind of like bring the music down a little bit so you could hear the hits?
Oh yeah, they definitely did that.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even notice that.
So good, like so good, because that's what happens in Fight Club. Like they bring it down, and all you hear are the fist falls.
Yeah,
and that like really sells the weight of it. And then in a great moment, like Tom Holland picks up the glider and is gonna like stab. Is gonna like just summarily execute Goblin, and in a beautiful symmetry. What is it? George Lucas says it's like poetry. It rhymes. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker jumps in and grabs the glider before Tom Holland's Peter Parker can kill Goblin, which is the way that he died. Except it wasn't Spider-Man doing it; it was Goblin killing himself.
Yep.
And he just meets him face to face and just looks into his eyes. And I don't remember if there are words exchanged, but like it's very clear that like this is the point of no return.
yeah,
And if you do this, you are not the same as you were before.
yeah.
And I think that both of these Spider-Men who have seen so much darkness and who have experienced so much pain and loss, who understand what this feels like, and yet they are there to pull him back from the brink. This is the most beautiful moment in the whole movie for me.
And then Homeboy gets stabbed.
Yeah.
But he was like, I've been stabbed before. It's fine.
Which is great. I thought they were going to kill him.
That would have been wild if they did that.
I definitely thought they were going to kill Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That would have been painful.
It would be painful to be stabbed to death. But yeah, Willem Dafoe pulls out like some other like daggers that he's got and stabs Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in the back. And then I think they're able to like inject him with something. I think Andrew Garfield's able to inject him with something or whatever.
Yes. And Mum Jum is pointing out.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we skipped over a very important.
An incredibly important moment. But just before this, I forget who does it. Was it just like the Electro explosion? Electro's flying around all over the place.
They're doing that whole coordinated like move.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that where they were kind of like, not working together so great, and then they had like a little huddle, and then they jumped up. When that moment when they all jumped off together and were like swinging off each other and doing stuff, I was like, oh my god, this is just so good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And a lot of this this happened during Into the Spider-Verse, like when Gwen and Miles and Peter like started working together when they were trying to fight Kingpin and all that sort of stuff. Like it didn't quite get to this point because they didn't really have that same level of action when they were fighting. But like this is the culmination of everything that's been happening so far. And when they finally act in tandem, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they're like throwing stuff to each other. It's like that. It's like that scene in Infinity War or Endgame where they're trying to get the Infinity Gauntlet and Spider-Man's like throwing it around to different people.
Oh, yeah.
Black Panther and all that sort of stuff. It's great. It's great. They're throwing around cures and like. different Spider-Man are holding off different villains and stuff. I forget who it is, but somebody knocks MJ off the tower, and it's a mirror of what happens to Gwen at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And you see the absolute abject panic on Andrew Garfield's face. Whether he's like in the mask or not, I don't remember.
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember seeing that look, and he is terrified, and he like jumps off of the thing and is actually able to save MJ, and then you can see the look on his face. Like there's this. Andrew Garfield is an incredible actor because the look on his face when he catches MJ successfully and lands on the ground, that is, and I might well up talking about it right now, but there is this moment of, I did it.
Yeah.
I was able to do it. I'm better now than I was then. I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think one of the best parts too is like, when it falls down and Andrew Garfield, like with tears in his eyes, like asks, "Are you okay?" And then MJ just asks it right back, and like you feel that.
Are
like,
you?
Yeah,
Okay?
are you?
Yeah, like you just feel so much of what he's gone through and what he's been through, and being able to do that, and it's just those like that line just really stuck with me because I was like, man, it's just like cuts right to it, and you see so much without saying it. You always hear "show don't tell," and that's like what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have like showed the scene, or he could have talked about it, like, "Oh, I saved you this time, woohoo!" But they didn't have to say anything. And Garfield sold it with his look, and
Yeah.
great.
And that's not going to carry the same weight if you haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh,
but
yeah,
he does
sure.
talk about the fact that like instead of his Uncle Ben or Aunt May dying, like when they're on the roof, he's like, I lost Gwen.
Yeah.
Like, and you see it. And I think that Andrew Garfield is definitely shines when he's depicting loss and sadness. Like, he's just amazing.
Go see Tick Tick Boom.
I know I need to.
I know, I haven't watched it
Yeah.
yet.
Didn't he get nominated for like some award for that?
I think he got Best Actor is what he's nominated for.
Yeah, I gotta go see that. I love Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
But there's this moment, and it's exactly what Adam was saying. Like when it's show don't tell, and I think that when he says, "Are you okay?" and then MJ says, "Are you okay?" When he looks back and he smiles and his eyes are filled with tears, like the understanding that I got from that is, I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to do this. Not only have I grown since then, I've just proved something to myself and also prevented this universe's Peter from experiencing what I did.
It's also another ballsy move by the producers to show that in the trailer, and it still hit and still do well. Like, we saw that she was falling and doing stuff, and like they telegraphed it, but still, it still was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times that's what I think is so impressive about this movie is there's like so many things that you could have kind of predicted pretty easily. Like, they're going to dress this, they're going to do this, but when it happens, it still is just, oh, so good.
You know what? They tweaked it enough where
right.
you went into it with certain expectations because of those trailers. And then when it actually plays out, it's like, oh, he's the one doing it, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You assume it's like, oh, they're going to recreate that with these people, and it's like, nah, this is a redemption
they're
for Andrew
better.
Garfield.
Yeah.
Like,
They're much better than that.
which is such a better choice.
Yeah.
Like, that is the perfect choice. And I think that this movie, like, of all the sugar that we're talking about, I think it is a lot of those little things that add up to something great.
Oh yeah.
It's just making a lot of these little, just beautiful, perfect choices. And they do just a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we talk about Tom Holland's Peter trying to kill Green Goblin. Peter 2 stops him, and Peter 3 helps Tom Holland's Peter inject Goblin with the cure, restoring Osborn's sanity. Tom Holland's Peter Parker realizes the only way to protect the multiverse is to erase himself from everybody's memory and requests that Strange do so, while promising MJ and Ned that he will find them again. The spell is cast, and everyone returns to their respective universes, including Eddie Brock, who's at a bar in a scene that is very funny that Adam referred to earlier. But before he gets pulled through the portal, a piece of the Venom symbiote is left on the bar, which of course opens up the possibility of having Venom in the MCU, which is awesome.
Which we also know we'll be getting it in the Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac. So there's gonna be a lot of
Yes.
Venom in the future.
Which
Very
I'm
excited.
extremely, extremely excited about. I know that a lot of people don't really like Venom, or at least, like, I have heard a lot of people be like, oh, Venom's such a boring idea. It's just evil Spider-Man. It's like, well, not really. Like, he's not really evil Spider-Man, evil Spider-Man. Like, I think that's like a very surface level reading of it, but if you go deep down, it's like, well, this is like a different approach to that sort of a thing. It's not just evil Spider-Man, but he becomes his own thing and has like his own issues. He becomes more of a cosmic hero. He's eventually part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, like when Flash Thompson becomes Venom, which could be interesting because Flash is in this movie.
I would not hate that if they did that.
I think that'd be dope.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and Flash Thompson Venom is like a pretty good Venom. Like, he's one of the best ones as far as like his morality.
Yeah,
he's like one of the better. And later he actually becomes a symbiote called Anti-Venom, which is actually able to kill other symbiotes, which is pretty cool. But anyway, 2 weeks later, Parker visits MJ and Ned to reintroduce himself, but decides against it in a very sad scene because he goes to the coffee shop and he's going to order a coffee, and it looks like she's going to recognize him and then doesn't.
And there's Ned behind him, like, hey.
Yeah, and they're clearly friends. And then he just decides, you know what?
I'm gonna let them be them.
Yeah, they both got an MIT, and their lives can be better without me in them. Which is the first real sacrifice I think we've seen Peter make, like knowingly. I mean, the first one is like being like, hey.
Well, the first is saying
Go through with the spell.
Yeah, go through with the spell, and then
yeah. No, even knowing that MJ and Ned will forget me and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then a second one is like being in this moment and being like, I can tell them, I can introduce myself, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then there's this final one, which is, I guess, part of that. He said, while mourning at May's grave, he had a conversation with Happy Hogan and inspired to carry on making a new suit and resuming his vigilantism.
Such a little home-crafted suit. It was like such a fun callback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more tech,
Yeah.
just back to basics.
Back to basics, which brings it full circle and turns him into, like, the crazy thing is, after 3 movies, he's ending this film at the place where the rest of the Peter Parkers end their first film, which is so interesting. Like, he's gone through this whole thing, helped save the universe and all this sort of stuff, and now he is just a broke dude in a bad apartment in a, you know.
Well, and it begs the question, what now, right? Like,
Yeah.
does he become, because like there's a lot of speculation of him becoming like the leader of the Young Avengers, and you know, with like Kate Bishop and all them, or
that would be awesome.
Or does he
I would
just straight
love
up
to see Tom Holland and Kate Bishop in a thing.
or you know, because Tom Holland has said, you know, I'm ready to start a family and I don't want to, you know, I want to take a break from movies for a little bit. Is it that they say, all right, this is a reboot of Spider-Man, and then Sony can basically do whatever they want, and Spider-Man's out of the MCU? There's a good chance all of this has already been decided, and I just don't know. And Adam may know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that was the interesting thing about that is, like, I think it was a very interesting out where they can be like, yeah, now, you know, Peter Parker could be anybody. But you know, we already know Holland's coming back for a few more movies, so it's like, it'll be interesting to see kind of. Because my big question, too, is, like, what do the Avengers and MJ and Ned, like, remember? Do they just remember they were, like, with Spider-Man a lot? Or, like, Spider-man was there saving the world?
Yeah, what were they doing that day? Or, like, did they just
like,
forget half their high school experience?
Yeah, because it's like, it's like so interesting, like, the, the whole Infinity War thing, and like, do the Avengers be like, man, we love this Spider-Man guy, but wish he would just tell us who he is? Or like, what's kind of? I'm so curious, kind of where it happens. It's interesting.
The interesting thing is it gives the producers at Marvel a lot of options, because they could be like, okay, nobody knows who Spider-Man is, so nobody knows how to get in contact with him, so nobody can call on him, and he's not going to be in any of the Avengers movies. They can take it that route, this other route where it's like, okay, we know him, and we can kind of get in contact with him, but nobody knows who he is. And we've got that. So that like kind of makes it on his own terms. Or it could be just like, yo, he's just not in this universe at all. Like there's a lot of places to go with this. Or it can be like, okay, just in the natural course. One thing I think would be really interesting is just like in the natural course of his like comings and goings, he just keeps running into Ned and MJ. I think that would be kind of interesting, where it's like the other side of fate.
Yeah, I feel like it'll end up there, where little by little he'll just kind of like intersect himself back into their lives, and then she's like, "This guy's kind of cute," and then they just kind of end up together again, or there's I don't know, maybe there's some backdoor of like, if you do this, then MJ will remember everything, and then that's a movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's very interesting.
I think it'd be a lot more complicated if we didn't know, or it'd be a lot more up in the air if we didn't know he was coming back for more movies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's the case with all these, right? Like,
sure.
Like, oh, is Robert Downey Jr. like really dead in the MCU? Yeah, at least for a little bit. I think he's.
But with the
dead.
multiverse, he's probably going to appear as a cameo sooner. Or later.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
and then it's like variants and all this sort of stuff, which I honestly, I love that about this phase of the MCU, is because you could legitimately see whatever whatever the writers can justify doing, they can just do.
Yeah.
And just explain it with like Doctor Who, like timey-wiminess.
Yeah, it's also kind of a perfect time for it too, as all the original crew starts getting older and gets out. It's like a perfect way to get these new people in and do stuff. It's just like it's kind of a very nice thing for them to kind of be doing right now too, which will be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, it's just, that's my whole thing, is like, if Peter Parker introduces himself just to Ned and MJ in the future, and he takes off his mask and be like, oh, you've been this guy the whole time? Or like, because they have to remember Spider-Man, because people remember Spider-Man, just not Peter Parker. So that's like, I'm very intrigued as to how they kind of message all this.
But they went to school with Peter, and she doesn't recognize
That's
him.
the
but
thing
Peter's
I don't
not
get.
there anymore.
So
but
she doesn't recognize him at all.
No, I think Peter is out of the picture. So Peter never was at that school. He was never friends with them. He was never there.
He's just
nobody remembers
him
Peter
at all.
Parker.
Yeah, he's
but
just
they remember
Joe Schmo
Spider-Man.
Right.
But so like,
Do they remember Spider-Man?
I think, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it sees, because at the end, like, J. Jonah Jameson is talking about Spider-Man the Menace doing this, all this stuff. Like, Spider-Man is still, people know about Spider-Man. They just...
Well, but he went out with his new suit, so maybe that's the Spider-Man that they remember now.
I guess maybe. I guess I haven't thought of it that way, so that could be something possibly.
So maybe like just the old Spider-Man. Because
it's kind of interesting, because they were saying like, no one will remember Peter Parker, but they didn't really specifically say like Spider-Man per se.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but that's an interesting. I didn't even think of that. So that could be that, just like, this new Spider-Man was like,
like this is a full reset. Like anything anybody knows about Spider-Man is only from this point forward.
Right, which is possible.
I feel
Nobody
like
remembers
that's,
Iron Spider-Man with the 4 arms.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the easiest way for them to write more with this Spider-Man, is to just say like, just assume that nobody knows anything and that this is just a soft reboot.
Such a big retcon. So sad.
None of this stuff ever happened.
Yeah.
But it did for Peter Parker.
Yeah. That's wild. Well, I don't really have a lot to say.
I have one more thing to say.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
So this movie was just about as perfect for me. Like, it was, one of the best, not even just MCU movies, just has some of my favorite moments in any movie. Just feel good. They did it, and I'm so proud and so happy for what they did. But there was one thing that I was hoping for that didn't happen. But with this whole multiverse thing, I was hoping that King the Conqueror was going to show up for a second and like realize what was happening or see something to be like Jonathan Majors have like just a little appearance to be like, what the hell's going on? Or like notice that this is happening when the cracks were happening and everything. I was just so, because I
just tie it into Loki.
Yeah, because that episode of Loki is one of my favorite MCU things ever.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to have him be in the MCU and hopefully be this big villain. And especially with the multiverse, I was like, oh man, are we going to, like, is this going to be kind of the start? We know he's coming back for Quantumania. I hope maybe he'll appear in Doctor Strange or something, but that was like the one thing yeah. Because I was like, oh,
I actually don't think he's going to. I don't think he's coming back for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think they've got this is another Spider-Man No Way Home scenario where it's like they got enough fish to fry in that movie without touching on Kang.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know who that is because not everybody watched Loki and everything, but. It'll be interesting because we know Loki's.
They don't mention him. They don't call him Kang in Loki, do they?
Well, he says like I've been called many things over the years, a conqueror, a ruler, all this kind of stuff. So so he's said that, and then, but we know that Loki's coming back for season 2, so it could be something where he is teased in Multiverse of Madness and then shows up in season 2, or it'll be very interesting. And like I said, I definitely think they didn't want to put too many things because. While that would hit for a lot of people, it is kind of we don't know him yet like we knew Thanos, but I was just hoping. I was like, oh man, that would just have been the end credit scene. I thought maybe would have been a perfect place for it, but instead we got a trailer for a movie,
where he's just like
interesting.
He's just like in a boat or something, like just watching the fight at the Statue of Liberty.
Or like he's he's
there was
in
some popcorn or something.
Like it would be like if he was in the new TVA or he was like doing something and then like. He like feels something. He's like something's different, or like he like just notices and then cut out of it. Like, oh my god, that would have been so good.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of when the universe is splitting and then they have all like the silhouettes of like Kang and Scorpion and all that?
Kraven Kraven. Yeah, then as Scorpion, people have seen other things. Yeah, that was interesting. That's another thing where I thought, oh man, here comes Kang, here comes my boy, but he never. But so it was kind of interesting. I don't know that I
remember that.
A lot of people didn't catch it. It's for like a second.
It was right before they closed it, when the multiverse was about to they're like everybody's coming.
Somebody says they're coming through, and then
you see like the first one is pretty clear that it's Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah,
and then there's other ones that people have kind of seen that could be Scorpion or possibly Black Cat or some other things, but it's
by the way, did you see that they're talking about bringing Anya Taylor-Joy on as like a Black Cat?
I think that was a rumor going around. I think I remember hearing something about that.
That's not something you just throw around.
I hope they bring Anya Taylor-Joy's Princess Peach into this universe.
Yes, that's the multiverse that I want.
Bring Chris Pratt's Mario, Jack Black's Luigi or Wario?
Come on, Chris Pratt's Mario versus Star-Lord.
Yeah,
Chris
let's
Pratt's
go.
Star-Lord. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
anything's possible.
Mario just gets summarily executed.
Oh my gosh,
Mamma Mia!
But wait, he's not doing an Italian stereotype accent. But the voice that he is doing is amazing, mind blowing.
Oh my god!
I'll believe that shit when I fucking see it. But yeah, like I think that's great, and I think this movie is great.
I just want to watch it again. Like I hate that it's
too.
not on digital or anything yet, because I don't want to go to the movies.
I hate that it's not on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys get to this at a later point. So excuse me for jumping the gun if we do, but and we don't have to hold you to it. But quick thoughts, where does it place MCU wise for you guys?
Okay, hold on. Let me pull up a list of the MCU movies.
I would say it's top 5 for me for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to hold Homecoming, and it's been the problem is as I've gotten older, I've stopped rewatching a lot of the MCU movies. So I have to remember how hype was I the moment I walked out of the theater.
Right.
But no, I mean it's definitely top 5. But
yeah. I think for me, I think Infinity War for me is my favorite because I'll never forget that ending moment and that feeling I had when the credits rolled and Thanos won. even though you knew what would come after that, it would probably come back.
But that feeling
like,
of I gotta wait a year, like
oh yeah, like that was crazy. But also that was like really the first time because they were building so much up for Thanos, kind of like they were building up to this movie too. And I was just like, they freaking did it, man.
Yeah,
they actually did it. Oh, it was so good.
This purple man that I've seen 10-second snips of for the last 10 years.
Like I said, it's all. I just love when there's, like I said, the stakes didn't end up meaning all that much except for a couple characters, but like it felt in the moment that there were real stakes. And that's also another thing. I wish we got more time in the blip, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I think
we really need to cover that at some point, but I think it might be too late.
Yeah, but I think Infinity War, Loki's up there for me, but I think this is maybe 2 or 3 for me, honestly. It was so good.
This might be top 5. So I'm looking at the movies right now. Some of the ones that really, really stand out are Iron Man 1 and 2.
Iron Man 2?
Dude.
There were like 3 separate occasions over COVID I tried to rewatch that movie. I never made it all the way through on any of them.
Oh my God.
Dude, Hammer is so good.
Yeah.
Hammer is so good. There's so many little brilliant touches. Anyway, Iron Man 1 and 2, Captain America Winter Soldier, and then Civil War. Let's see.
Winter Soldier's
Infinity
up there
War. And No Way Home. No Way Home is... I'm just going to go ahead and say No Way Home is definitely top 5. It might be top 3.
Yeah.
It might be top 3, but it would have to be like Civil War is like up there. Civil War and Winter Soldier are like probably in the top 3 as well. Yeah. Really, really good. Really, really good. Definitely a top tier MCU
I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm
It's been
extremely
hard not
excited.
to go back to the theater.
Yeah. I'm extremely excited. Have they said when this is coming?
So there was like a rumor today that it was coming out on like February 28th to digital, but I think Sony kind of was like, that's actually not right, or somebody said it. It was like, so, but I could see it. I mean, it's going to stay in theaters for a while. I definitely believe that, but I can see it maybe in March or April because things come a lot quicker, but
Yeah, they're saying...
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I'm seeing the same, February 28th. I don't know how accurate that is now, but...
Yeah, Fandango, in our Slack, Fandango reached out to say there was no digital release date as of yet, so they said that date was actually inaccurate. So, it still could be. They're just not saying it, but I think they're going to milk this baby for as much as they can.
Yeah, that's just it. I think they're waiting to see until it... Dude, 33 million after it's in the pandemic time. I mean, I cover the box office stuff every week, and it's like seeing how movies come in with 4 million or 5 million or 10 million or things, and this is just week after decimating
week after week.
everything else that's coming out right now.
Unbelievable.
That's wild. So I'm on IMDb right now, and they've got a plugin that pulls in the meta scores on Metacritic for each of these movies.
Oh.
This is wild.
Am I the only one that froze? There we go.
Catch this, right? There is one Marvel movie that is higher than this, but other than this one movie, no MCU movie is above the 70s. That's as high as they get.
Wow.
There is one Marvel movie.
Doesn't seem right.
There is one Marvel movie that is higher than that, and it is in the very high 80s. Can you guess which one it is?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
Endgame.
No.
Homecoming.
Keep going. Nope.
Ant-Man.
Nope.
No, I have no idea. What?
The original Avengers.
No. Let me know if you give up.
I give up.
Adam, you want to keep guessing?
I'll go one more. The most beloved, well-received movie.
Oh, Black Panther.
Highest rated on Metacritic. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That
Yeah.
was that, yeah.
Black Panther at an 88.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The other highest are like 70. Captain America Civil War, 75. Guardians of the Galaxy, 76.
Well, I mean, usually people look at Rotten Tomatoes for all that, too. It's interesting that they're pulling in...
That's why I
Metacritic.
think that these are interesting. Iron Man, the original Iron Man, 79 Metacritic.
Wow.
Some of these are like shocking. Spider-Man: Homecoming 73.
Fucking
Thor
hell.
Rotten
Ragnarok.
Tomatoes, a lot of them are like 90, 80.
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok 74.
Get out of here with this Metacritic, Brian. No,
Yeah,
one-
no one
Infinity
cares
War.
about your Metacritic, Brian. Get out of here.
Infinity War is a 68.
Oh, get out of here, Metacritic.
Yeah.
Avengers
ridiculous.
Endgame is 10 points higher at a 78.
Yeah. Thor
And Spider-Man No Way Home 71.
Avengers Endgame.
I find that fascinating. But as an interesting wrinkle, that is way more in keeping with a lot of the film critic kind of MCU movies are not great movies. They're just like popcorn cinema. They're not great. They're okay. I think that is very interesting that Rotten Tomatoes is more on the line of like, yo, these movies are fucking awesome. Whereas Metacritic is more like these movies are okay.
Yeah,
Which I
that's
think is
interesting.
very
Go
very,
get
very
the
interesting.
glowy thing. Was it fun? There's
Yeah,
90%
basically.
of Marvel movies.
Which I think is valuable. Like there is a lot of value to like
A glowy thing.
speed is there. Right, Chris, write it down. Write it down.
A
in the show
glowy
notes.
thing. There's a lot of value to a glowy thing.
But yeah, like I do think that there like I don't think anybody would argue that Speed is high cinema, but that movie fucking rips ass. Like it's great.
Yeah.
It's a great popcorn movie,
True,
and I
true.
think that's also true of this. And I think particularly in times like these, in this economy, it's fun to just have something cool to go see. And No Way Home had a lot of depth to that I think elevates it beyond a lot of the standard fare in the MCU.
Oh, without a doubt.
Even as good as you might think the MCU in general is. But yeah,
This was another level for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's all I got to say. Chris, did you have any closing comments? I know Adam was able to wrap up what he was thinking about. Did you have anything else? that you
Kang
wanted
the
to say?
Conqueror.
Go get the glowy thing. That's all I got.
Okay.
The all important glowy thing. Screw the Infinity
That's
Stone.
right.
All right. Well, we want to thank you, all of our listeners and viewers, for joining us for episode 214 of The Platformers. If you have thoughts or topic ideas that you want to share, let us know. You can find us on Twitter at PlatformersPod, and you can find us on Twitch and YouTube at twitch.tv/PlatformersPod, where we stream every episode live each week on Mondays. And we archive those at youtube.com/PlatformersPod. If you want to find me, personally, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ribnax, RIBNAX. And if you want to check out the things that I am doing week to week, month to month, and throughout the years of my life, you can go over to IGN.com and check out the guides. Some of my latest ones are I wrote the guide for Call of Duty Vanguard. I wrote the guide, the collectibles guides, and created the collectibles hubs for Halo Infinite. So if you're looking to 100% that game, you can check that out. And I'm also maintaining the databases on announcements for Pokemon Legends Arceus. So if you're looking forward to that, you can check that out, because there have been some new Japanese trailers that have announced some new Pokemon recently.
I'm getting very excited for that game, just for the
Me
record.
too.
Like,
God, I hope that's
didn't
good.
care about it at
Please be
all,
good.
and like the last few weeks, I'm like, that's like really
This looks
soon.
good.
This looks pretty good.
I know.
Did you see the videos where like the Pokemon are like straight up trying to murder the trainer, and he's like dodge rolling? I'm like, this
I'm
is
here
intense.
for it.
The Garchomp is like, I'm just gonna explode the earth. It's like you're trying to catch Iron Man in a ball.
Yeah.
It's very good. But yeah, Chris, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Shrives93. Lately, I've been tweeting about the Analog Pocket. That's pretty much all. That and Resident Evil Village. That's probably it.
I'm so bummed out that like now looking at all of this stuff and like hearing what you've said and what other people have said, I'm just like, damn, I kind of do want an Analog Pocket, and now I super can't get
No,
one.
you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That thing looks amazing.
it's very fun. I've been playing a
Cool.
lot of Kirby Tilt and Tumble.
Oh yeah, I finished Returnal, so now I'm
Oh
starting
my
on.
god! I
Yeah.
meant to say something about that. I'm so proud of
Good
you.
job.
Thanks, man. 17 deaths.
So proud.
Wow, I cannot say that.
Yeah.
Returnal is one of my favorite games of all time. I
It's-
loved it so much.
It's really good. It
Platinum
has
trophy. Thank you very much.
It has. Wait, you do? Oh
It was
wow.
brutal.
That's
And
very
that was
impressive.
that was before they fixed the thing where like there was one room that had literally like a 0.0075% chance of showing up. I think I was searching for the final room longer than I actually played to beat the game.
Oh wow.
It was ridiculous. But
I got to this thing and I got to this one area where I was like, I'm just assuming I don't have the right upgrade. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I didn't. Maybe you needed the visor for that. There's a room later on in the last biome where I got to one of those rooms where they have like the swirling dust that creates like the murals, like the holographic murals. And there's one of them that I couldn't get to, and it was on like this super high ledge, and there were like these bracing. Oh my God, what do they call them? In old cathedrals, they're the things that like stand up and like kind of flying buttress. So they had buttresses on the edge, and I was like, okay, I can jump up here, and I'll jump and dash over to the other buttress, and then I'll jump to that thing. Nope, you just slide straight down and you can't jump. I was like, fuck, I can't get to this stupid thing, and there's one of these little murals that I can't get to, and I was so annoyed. But you know what? I need to go back, and I mean, I can't go back, but like if I find it again, I'll see if there's like a glowing orb that I can use the visor on or something.
So proud of you.
But yeah. Dude, that last boss is so good. Like there are like 3 or 4 bosses in that game that I'm just like, dude, these are so fun.
I'd love to do a spoiler cast on that. That has a good story too. That's like hidden underneath the.
You know what?
Too. It's.
I might be up for that. I don't know that I would have before, but I think that would be pretty interesting. We can maybe.
What's funny, what you're missing context-wise that I have and you don't, Adam, is that we spent the last episode like a good hour and 45 minutes, and all he did was take a dump on Returnal and how frustrated he was at it.
Oh, that's the name of the game right there. With that,
I was so frustrated. The problem with and this is a part of our discussion, but I'm just going to give Adam the Cliff's notes. The biggest problem that I have is that the floor in Returnal is so much lower than it is in Hades, which is the only other roguelike that I like.
Yeah.
But like the fact that you've got the mirror on the wall and you're constantly like building up your darkness and you can activate God mode, it's way more accessible. The runs are way shorter. It feels like Hades really respects your time, and there's no run of Hades because you can pick your weapon at the beginning. There's no run that feels bad. Or there's one run that feels bad, and then you're just like, okay, I'm just not going to use that weapon anymore. Whereas in Returnal, everything is left up to chance, and you can play like a 3-hour, 4-hour, 5-hour run and just die and have nothing to show for it. And that just feels really bad, and I just wish that they would change that, because this would be like a 10. If they had the dark mirror and you could pick your weapon at the beginning of the game, this would be a fucking 10. I'd love it. Yeah. But anyway.
One day, stay tuned for the Returnal Spoilercast coming to a theater near you.
Hey, yay!
45-day exclusive window at theaters only.
Damn it. Or if you want to watch it on Disney Plus, you can buy access to that for an additional $65.
Yes, we'll do that for you too. We'll do that for you.
Yeah,
it's because we care. We care.
It's because we're trying to make things so good for you. So you can pay your subscription and then you pay us another $65 and we'll get it to you. Anyway, Adam, where can people find you?
You can find me at Adam Bankhurst on Twitter. That's where I hang out mostly. And you can catch all my work at IGN.com, where I write a bunch of news and run the homepage and do all kinds of crazy stuff and work with these wonderful people here. And you can also check out my podcast, The Gamer's Advocate, where I would like to get both Brian and Chris on there soon. So keep this crossover MCU funness going.
Thank you for providing me content on the weekends to make my job easier.
Gotcha, man. I got you.
That's awesome. You love to see it.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. This was a blast.
Yeah,
man,
I mean, and I can't thank you enough for being on. It took way too long, and hopefully we'll get you back on more episodes in the future, because it's.
We'd love it. I'd love it, man.
As always, every time you and I sit, like, this is something that nobody would know except for you and I. Every time you and I sit down and like talk, it's like we are so similar.
We are. It's kind of shocking, actually.
It's really wild. And it is always such a joy to sit down and talk with you. It's always, I always just leave being so happy and encouraged. And it was just an absolute joy to have you on for this one. I'm so happy we were able to make this work.
Yeah, me too. Thank you guys. It was great.
So Adam, you're the best. Everybody go follow Adam and check out what he's doing, because he's a stand-up dude. But yeah, so please review us on your podcast platform of choice. And if you like the show, share it with friends, because we don't advertise, and that's the only way we have to grow. Word of mouth. It's a powerful thing. So from everybody here at the Platformers, we hope that you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.